Hello, I'm Daniel, and it's probably been a while since you've heard my voice. Now, that's mostly because I've been spending a lot of time just reflecting on the past few years, what I've done, what I've experienced, what I've seen, and trying to figure out what lessons I've learned or I could learn from what I went through. And I think one of the biggest lessons for me lately has been that your focus or what you let yourself focus on will make or break whether you give up on attacking an issue or whether you're able to get something done if you're able to push things a little bit further in a positive direction. Now, for me, when I think back to, of course, 2020. That's when I was given uncomfortable amounts of attention and found myself thrust into much bigger conversations than I ever wanted to have, to be quite honest. And so my kind of zone of focus grew exponentially almost overnight. It got so much bigger than me. I mean, having conversations about how do you eradicate bias in journalism and how do we end racism? I don't know. If I did, I probably would have done it by now. Those things are too big for one person to address, or to think that they'll make a dent in that. An example would be one that we often use when talking about African Americans, civil rights, and that'd be Martin Luther King Jr. Now, we applaud him today, everybody quotes him, but we never acknowledge that at the time of his death, he was one of the most hated men in America. There were political cartoons, him standing talking to a reporter saying, "We plan another peaceful protest tomorrow." Meanwhile, cars are overturned and buildings are on fire behind him. He was not given respect, and I think he was all but abandoned in his last few months. Even a man like MLK could not make a wide impact. Not until many, many years later, after his death, when people finally started listening to some of his words. And so I reached a point where I had to ask myself, can I do anything meaningful in that arena? Can I do anything meaningful to push those issues towards some kind of better conclusion? The answer is no. No, no, not the big issue. Not that. Because when I tried, I became overwhelmed and I became discouraged and hopeless and angry and depressed, and I didn't want to be here anymore. So I had to ask myself, what can I do that's meaningful? What can I get done in the condition I'm in? And so I changed my focus. In fact, I thought of one person when I asked myself that question. That was my grandfather, Arzell. Arzell was a black man who grew up in Chickasaw County, Mississippi in the early 1900s. To say that his education was limited by segregation, racism, and what have you would be kind of an understatement. My grandfather never learned how to read. And it's something he hid from at least me, well, because I was a young child when I was around him a lot. And nothing ever was lacking in our relationship. I want to make that very clear. My grandfather was one of the most emotionally intelligent people I've ever met in my life, and the friendliest. He never met a stranger. Going to stores with him was a headache. I just wanted to get back to their apartment, and here he is talking to everyone. And he was always such a nice guy to everybody. But now, hearing stories from my father about moments he saw with his father, Arzal, I realized that it was something he deeply regretted and something he was ashamed of. And my grandfather was steadily employed, and but I always wondered, with that emotional intelligence, with his hardworking ethic, with everything he had to give, how much further could my grandfather have gone in life had he known simply how to read? That thing that many of us take for granted. So, I found the thing that I thought would add meaning to my life. Helping people in the same situation as my grandfather get over that thing holding them back. So I became a reading tutor of elementary kids. And I can tell you that as my area of focus shrunk back down to what I can get done, suddenly I was lighter as a person. I was less stressed. I felt pride because every week I have tangible evidence of whether or not my students are getting better. And they are. I have something I can hold and say, I made a difference in this person's life. And that's meaning. I mean, yeah, I could have taken the 45,000 I got for GoFundMe, kept it all to myself, and then exploited the situation in Kenosha in 2020 to gain money. I could probably be rich right now. Not a care in the world had I played it all differently. But it would be meaningless. The little a righteous man hath is better than the riches of many wicked. That's a psalm I read recently. And it's true. I'll be the first to tell you, I have far less material things than I used to. Money, furniture, clothes, you name it, I have less of it these days than I did back then. But which road, which path, which thing was more meaningful? Which did I actually make a positive impact and actually feel it? And it's what I'm doing now. Yeah, from the outside it's less, but inside it is so much more than I ever had. And I'm encouraging you to find that thing if you haven't. Sure, maybe you have to tone down your lifestyle to match it. Maybe you have to adjust where you live or how you live or so on and so forth. But I encourage you to always go for what's meaningful. Make the difference in your community that you can. And that's enough. If everybody just did what they could, think of what we could all collectively get done together. Think about how beautiful that would be. And that's all I've got. Just that encouragement. I hope you find something that fills your life with meaning, that lightens your load, and that lets you feel like you do matter in your little corner of the world. Take care until next time, my friends. Goodbye.